What's up, Jesse?
What's going
Not much, man. Fired up tonight. Ready to do this.
on? I don't think you're fired up for politics.
That's okay, though. That's okay. It's good to be a little adventurous sometimes.
Yeah, we can't really talk about that part.
Anyhow, so exciting news tonight. YangGang. So I'm excited for Andrew Yang, man. He's young. He's charismatic. He should never ran for the Democratic Party. He should have been his own party. You know, and wouldn't have gotten any traction. So maybe being part of the Democratic Party helped, but.
I mean, other than besides Bernie, he probably had the second and maybe he even had a more enthusiastic following, but he did a hell of a job. It was very, I mean, from what he did, I mean, it was pretty great. One thing we want to try to do on this podcast is go over possible third party candidates for 2024. Because it's not gonna be able to happen this year. But I think the further we go along, the closer and closer we get to a third party candidate once again.
Absolutely.
Because you had Ross Perot before, who I think he pulled 20% of the vote, and he caused Bush to lose and Clinton to win in the first place.
And he was the last independent to actually be on the debate stage. He actually got to debate.
Oh,
if you can debate with the two parties, you can win.
Yeah.
Why aren't we seeing more debates? Why are they such cowards? Now, I'm so sick of. I can't stand cowards, dude. They're cowards. You know what? Let's. I'm hoping we're gonna get a debate. Shouldn't we see the two parties at least debate each other this year in 2020? Or we're gonna make an excuse so they don't debate each other? That's what's That's what I'm scared of. I mean, we need debates.
With the way Joe Biden's hiding out, it makes me feel like maybe they won't happen, right? Because they're gonna keep playing up this COVID stuff, and not that COVID isn't serious. It is, but at the same time, it's like I'm pretty sure, if you guys can do all this other stuff, you can have these press conferences. If Congress can get together, they can test people to have a debate.
Oh yeah, and so here's will Joe Rogan test people every time they come on the podcast?
They can figure this stuff out.
Oh yeah, for sure. So here's the thing with Andrew Yang, and here's why I brought up debates, because even when Andrew Yang was allowed to debate, if you look at his time spoken, it's so far down. They're not asking him questions; they're afraid of his answers. I like his UBI stuff, and I like the way he kind of is young enough but not too young to kind of had the experience of business and what it would take to kind of be a president. Because I don't think that every president needs foreign policy diplomacy. I mean, it proved that Barack Obama had no foreign diplomacy. Donald Trump had no foreign diplomacy. So, and using that as an offensive, I think is kind of ridiculous.
I think part of Yang, I mean, I don't think it was completely skewed against him, because he was too nice, right? Some of it was too nice. So in some ways he reminded me of Ben Carson, but he's more exciting than Ben Carson, right?
Oh,
but Ben Carson
makes you snooze.
Well, yeah, and that's the difference. But let's say, because some of these guys, they constantly interrupt each other or they play off each other, right? Well, he typically didn't do that. He typically waited for somebody to ask a question instead of just inserting himself. And I think, if you want a chance with these guys, you're going to have to insert yourself more, because there was some debates he had 5 to 10 minutes of talk time or something like that. But he was always at the bottom three almost.
Yeah.
And that's what happens. And if you don't make a place for yourself, they don't, because let's be honest, they don't want you, right? I mean, and not that he isn't a great candidate, but they wanted, early on they wanted Joe Biden, and early on they wanted, every once in a while some other person would get a little bit of fire behind him, and they'd be like, oh, Kamala Harris, or this person or that person. They didn't want Andrew Yang, and I don't understand why, because Andrew Yang, he's pretty great at what he does.
He's articulate. So let's back up for a minute. Andrew Yang, let's explain who he is. So he was originally he graduated from, let's see here, Brown University, and he got his bachelor's there, and then he went on and got his law degree from Columbia University. He's 45, and from New York. So I think that's kind of some of his Democratic roots right there, is being in that area, heavily Democratic.
Yeah, and he's a son of a
Taiwanese,
Taiwanese immigrants.
He's first generation. Let's see here, and that was so he's first generation, and I think the cool thing about it is he's an entrepreneur.
Yeah,
he started off as an attorney. He was originally a corporate lawyer. so he kind of understands that corporate life. He saw like the good and probably the bad of corporatalism. Yang became working on startups, which is huge because we talk in America about small businesses. So you have somebody that's working on a startup. That is a definition of a small business. You're taking it from zero to hero, and so I think that's good.
And I think he did well. I think he was successful.
Yeah.
And that's why that's why he even made it to this stage in the first place, is because he was successful.
Absolutely.
And you can tell it. I mean, I don't know, like he seems like he knows his stuff. He's obviously very intelligent. And if you go to his policies, he has a bunch of extremely in-depth policies. Some of them I totally don't agree with. Like, have you ever seen his Second Amendment policies? It's the most in-depth Second. Like, if there wasn't a Second Amendment, like this is probably what you would want. Like it has so much information. Now, I mean, I'd rather have the Second Amendment where people can own stuff, but
yeah.
It's all about licensing, and going through all these different hoops to be able to be licensed for certain types of weapons.
The deterrent to be able to buy a gun.
It's pretty crazy.
If you go to yang2020.com, you can see all of his policies. I would recommend not donating to him. I don't even know if you can, but it has a donate button.
It still says donate, but I don't know if.
So it lists kind of everything that we're going to go over. He has gun safety on here, Medicare for all. Combat climate change.
He has extremely in-depth plans for all kinds of stuff.
Women's right to choose, making Texas fun, which I think is hilarious. Southern border security value-added tax, which is kind of something I'm more interested in.
He was big. Like he was big on those VATs.
It's smart. It's really smart.
And it is. And I mean, the whole idea was to use it to fund part of his UBI. The whole universal basic income. Use these VATs so you can hit people like Amazon and some of these other. Some of these other giant corporations.
That's kind of where I was going the other night with the UBI. So, value-added tax is currently used in 160 out of 193 countries, including every developed nation except the U.S., because it's a more efficient way of generating revenue with no loopholes. Big companies and rich people are excellent at moving assets around to avoid taxes. Amazon, Google, and other companies funnel hundreds of billions of earnings overseas. In fact, Amazon paid zero taxes last year. A value-added tax makes it impossible for them to benefit the American people, automation, and infrastructure without paying their fair share. So you look at these corporations that have a domineering presence in China, and they're building all these phones in China. Think about this. And I was listening to I can't remember. I think it was Joe Rogan's recent podcast, and he's talking to a prepper. Imagine if a disaster happened. It's kind of like Corona, right? And we can't get phones anymore because all the phones are made in China. Maybe we have a 2-year supply here. Imagine if we can't get medicine because a lot of our medicine is made in China. Imagine these scenarios where we are creating ourselves into this like bubble because we're not allowing these NAFTA agreements, these TPPs are pushed by people like Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton. NAFTA was pushed by George Bush Sr., and then it was passed by Bill Clinton, which is a North American Free Trade Act. These things like gut the middle class, and that's why I think if you get somebody like Yang who can burst out of the bubble and can pursue an independent party run and get on the ballots and be able to debate, and he can get his voice, and we get some ground because it seems like people are waking up to politics. I think it's a good move.
Well, and Yang is just a lot of fun anyway. Did you watch any of his?
Some of his sideline videos are hilarious.
Like he'll have, after the show, there was guys who were like, "Hey, I'm gonna kneel in front of you and you spray this."
I was just getting ready to mention that one.
You spray this whipped cream in my mouth, and he did it. And he filled their mouth up with whipped cream, and it's so. I mean, like.
Well, the campaign guy runs over there. He's like, "We can't.
Yeah, like this is doing this. This is oddly sexual." But it's funny. Like it was pretty funny. And Yang was, I wish he would. I wish he would loosen up a little bit during the debates. But he just needs more time. I mean, hell, he's only 45, and I would assume that he'd probably run again this.
Joe Biden's been in office for 44 years. Yeah. 44.
Yeah.
Yang is 45 years old. And you think about this: Yang's 45 years old. Biden doesn't support half the things that Yang does. So
because Biden's not smart.
Okay.
No offense.
I don't.
And I'm not saying that Trump's smart. Like, because Yang is much more intelligent in terms of
Trump.
In terms of IQ, like Yang has a very high IQ, right?
But think about this, dude.
But sometimes people are a little too smart and they'll play with shit too much. They'll be like, "Hey, I have this great idea," and that's why like his gun.
I think Yang kind of ran into that.
Thing is like it's really smart. It's just. Okay, dude. Like,
come talk to us, Yang.
Here.
This is an invitation to come talk to us because we're table talk, normal. everyday
He was he had
gentleman.
Ben Shapiro had him on too, and it was a really good.
Oh, yeah.
That was a great. It was a great
Because
Ben
you got
Shapiro
two
episode.
intellectual heavyweights right there.
I just enjoy listening to Yang because he's a genuine. He seems like a genuinely good person.
Yeah.
Right.
So here's something. Okay, so I want to do something real quick. Here's top 10 trending policies that Yang supports, and let's name these off. The freedom dividend. I almost thought
and that's the 1,000 per year, right?
Yep. I almost thought this said human centipede, but it says human-centered capitalism.
You say human centipede?
I was thinking like right when I saw it. I don't know why. I don't think he would support that.
I'd have to ask Yang if he supports that or not.
Reduce student loan burden, value-added tax, southern border security, Medicare, Medicaid for all, gun safety, climate change, achieve net zero emissions by 2049, women's right to choose, making Texas fun, which is hilarious. See, that's why I love Yang. He's funny. But anyhow, so look at this, man. Joe Biden doesn't support Medicare for all.
Yeah, and that's pretty funny because he won't even because Joe Biden could help shore up the left with Medicare for all, right?
Yep.
But he won't even back that, which is kind of odd. I get it and I don't get it, but he's still milk toast. He's still he's just trying to play the most safe stuff because he's not. I mean, it's like his candidates. He's not even really alive, but he's there. I mean, he's there, and I guess allegedly he's winning. I don't trust any of the polls though right now because. So
here's what Yang says, and this is kind of why I like things like he's like we talk about how we're going to pay for it, but the reality is we're already paying for it. We pay for it when we can't switch jobs. We pay for it when new jobs are temp gig jobs that don't provide health care. We pay for it when all of the prices are higher. We pay for it when healthcare costs drive us into bankruptcy. To be clear, I support the spirit for Medicare for all and have since the first day of this campaign. I do believe that swiftly reformatting 18% of our economy and eliminating private health insurance for millions of Americans is not a realistic strategy. So we need to provide a new way forward on healthcare for all Americans. He's a realist. He's not saying, "Hey, wishy-washy. Hey, guys, I can give you all free health care, and I'll just make it one government system, a single-payer tax." He's not doing that, and that's what's so frustrating about politicians is these wishy-washy bullshit dreams they try to push aren't real. And you know what?
It's the difference between him and Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders wants 100%. He wants to promise all the everything. Not even really looking at the cost. It's like he's going to promise these things for people's votes. Yang was, he was pretty methodical about all of it. Like, hey, this is how I'm going to do it. Now, this is what we're going to do. And I agree with. Actually, I kind of agree on that. I kind of agree on that. And I think he's right. Like, I think in a way, in the future, I think the UBI is probably it's either going to have to be, or I don't know how the economy is really going to look. Maybe it doesn't have to be. Maybe there's another way to go about it.
So, I agree with that. So let's break it down. So this is how he supports UBIs. This means controlling the cost of prescription drugs. 100% agree with that. No one talks about this. Andy, who I love, is a pharmacist. She's on our third-party podcast, and we can't wait to get her kind of input on that. That means investing in innovative technology. And if you look at America right now, where does all the medical innovation come from? It comes from America. But we got to figure a way out to get our costs down because it's expensive. Monica's surgery, a 30-minute surgery on her foot because she got stung by a stingray, was $800 for 30 minutes. $800. And that was just this. That was just a surgeon. That wasn't the anesthesiologist. That wasn't anything else. That was just the surgery. And it's like, so I get it. You know what I mean? And a lot of people don't even have $400 in redundancy savings. So and I understand that. So shifting our focus on more stages of care. That means revamping comprehensive care. 21st to include crucial aspects of well-being. That means taking powerful lobbyists in D.C. Diagnosing and addressing these underlying problems is the first and most important step to ensuring everyone has access to health care, because we cannot extend quality coverage to everyone without real strategies on how to avoid toxic incentives of our current system. So I just think he lays it out, and he doesn't get caught up with saying, oh, we could pay for it, because they don't give him the spotlight.
Well, I don't think he's not an ideologue, so I don't think he's like these are the ideas that he's put together, that are. I think it's really intelligent. I think it's well displayed, but it doesn't mean like he's stuck on all these ideas, right? Like I don't like this isn't like his party platform or whatever. Like I think he would do his own thing, be his own man, and and still have to try to push what he can push. I just like that it's different. He's creative. He's smart. He's actually thought through some of this stuff. It's not just the same old bullshit from the parties. He's different than a lot of these other people.
Another Yang thing, and again, this is from Yang 2020, just so everybody knows, but it's good because it lays out what he thinks. Another thing that Joe Biden doesn't agree with is the freedom dividend, which is the UBI. Andrew would implement the freedom dividend, a universal basic income of $1,000 a month, $12,000 a year for every American adult over the age of 18. This is independent of one's work status or any other factor. This would enable all Americans to pay their bills, educate themselves, start businesses, be more creative, stay healthy, relocate for work, spend time with their children, take care of loved ones, and have real stake in the future. Other regular increases to keep up with the cost of living. Any change to the freedom dividend would require a constitutional amendment. It would be illegal to lend or borrow against one's dividend. A universal basic income at this level would permanently grow the economy by 12.56 to 13%, or about $2.5 trillion by 2025. It would also increase the labor force by 4.5 to 4.7 million people, putting money into people's hands, keeping it with a perpetual boost in support of job growth and the economy.
I don't know the
that's
studies.
That's his thing. So there's no that's just from Yang's words. I'm not saying that's fact, but that's kind of what he says.
Yeah, because the studies I've seen on UBI are not. A lot of them don't come to that kind of conclusion. Now, but of course they were small studies. They were just done in certain areas. I don't know how what it would be like long term, because there's been some different ones in the world, and there's been a couple here. I think there might have been one in Stockton. There was a few locations in America as well.
So
and I don't think they had necessarily great stuff, but that is a lot. That is a tremendous amount of money. I'm not sure how much he said the VAT would cost, would bring in. But his big thing about it was also mothers or fathers being able to stay home, and that was another piece of it. Like, hey, why aren't stay-at-home mothers or stay-at-home fathers basically rewarded by the system so that they can actually do that, so that we can actually go through with these things, and because they're still giving back to society.
Yeah.
That's still obviously that's still an extremely important job, and you're not getting any money for it. It's just becoming like an economic drain technically.
It takes us back to our first conversation about why third party, and if you think about it, at some point we got to get back to the family structure. I mean, don't even have to be married, but like you need it's important. And I was talking to another friend about this, about having a single household, or if you're gonna have a single household, you can't work 3 jobs and expect to raise. It's hard to raise a child when you're working 3 jobs and there's no support system, because a lot of Americans don't have the support system. And I think there's a way to do it, especially when you make $1 billion in one day. It's ridiculous. It's too big.
Well, I mean, we're the bad thing about it in single parent and sometimes 2-parent households is it's like we're outsourcing our child rearing to professionals, like to a daycare or to this or that, where somebody else is raising your kids for you, and you only have them so many hours a day.
And that's what Yang's saying right
and
here.
that's like, I don't think this is good, and I don't think it's good long term, and I think that's just another part of like disintegrating the family unit.
People are using, and here's another thing to go along with that. Just what you just said, it's not good because we're using school systems as daycares. So we're in a pandemic and we want to send people back to school because people need to work and people need to get their kids back to school. Why don't you pay that extra $1,000 a month for that daycare? Daycare is so expensive. $1,000 a month would just pay for daycare in itself for a lot of families.
Yeah, because I know my youngest Ezra, it's I think it's $825 a month. Whew. Because he's still in diapers and stuff. When the younger they are, the more expensive they are.
That's extra $800. That's a mortgage payment.
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
Unless you're in California,
a lot of money.
New York.
And that's how it is. Like under like 2 or 3, that's a pretty standard price for this area. So you imagine what it's going to be in some of those other areas,
Yeah.
But we're also, I mean, not only that, not only are you losing that money, the person who's basically with your kid more than you is your daycare provider. So they're also raising your children for you, which I hate. Like none of my 5 other children, none of them were in daycares like that. We always worked at our schedules and worked at all that stuff so that we were the ones raising our own children. Which is how I'd prefer it. But I mean, I understand there's a lot of families that just can't do it. Because of the system we have, our system isn't set up for that. So our system is not set up to promote families.
It'd be nice to find a job to where you can split time and make up your alone time on weekends. I mean, I grew up with. It's weird. I was thinking about this the other day. Your oldest is going to be graduating high school. I I've known your oldest like almost half my life, and it's a cool feeling because I've seen like how you raise it and how you split that time and how it works, and it made me think about family. So I think that's a cool thing. Something I also want to mention too, just so we're clear on this, you know, I'm not saying a huge like 100% Andrew Yang. This is a third party podcast talking about something that could potentially get a ticket or have the ability to. But Donald Trump has also talked about making child care more accessible.
Yeah, I think he would do it. I do think that Trump would do it as well, but maybe not necessarily for all the right reasons. I think that Yang would try to do a lot of things. I think he would try to do them for a lot of the right reasons, and that's good. I mean, not that you know. I mean, I guess it's better to have the action than not have the action. And I think Yang is I think he's definitely a viable candidate. I just wonder if he will buck the Democratic
He's
Party
got to be
if he
strong.
has to.
Yep.
You know, because I was telling you about Brett Weinstein. You know, wanting to draft him and William H. McRaven, which I don't know as much about him, but I think he's a center-right Republican.
Let me go ahead.
And they're trying
William
H. McRaven.
McRaven.
And he was ex-military.
That's a cool name, by the way.
And you know, like he wants to bring him in because he thinks they're both genuine people, and they're people that basically that we should draft to be, you know, president, vice president, have them run on their own little ticket, you know, and just so that we can kind of get away from the two-party system as well. But
was he talking 2024 or was he talking?
He was actually talking about this time, even though that podcast on Joe Rogan was only like a month or two ago.
You know what's funny? That's so polarizing right now. That could happen.
Well,
it's potentially a possibility.
Because Brett Weinstein went through like some of the data as well, and the issues that they were pulling, the issues that they had, they felt like they were going to. They did some kind of a study where they felt like they were going to pull from each side about the same. So it wasn't just like going to screw the Democrats or just going to screw the Republicans. They felt like they had at least enough of both groups that it would be potentially a viable, you know, viable option if it was going to happen. But it doesn't look like it's going to happen this time around.
So William Harry McRaven, he was born in 1955. He's a retired United States Navy 4-star admiral. Who last served as the 9th Commander of the United States Special Operations Command from August 2011 2014. He's a Chancellor of the University of Texas system. Texas.
Is that what he is?
Yeah, so it's kind of funny that's how you make Texas fun, Yang. Get this guy involved. He doesn't look too fun, though. Let's see. He previously served from 2008 to August 2011 as Commander of the Joint Special Force Operations Command, JSOC. Man, they got some and everything. Let's see here. So really, he's just a military guy. So that kind of gives you your Operations Neptune Spear.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with him, but
I'm not either. I don't know anything about him.
For even Brett Weinstein to even know him, he must be a.
So who is Brett Weinstein? Can you explain that real quick?
Well, I mean, he's a a member of the intellectual dark web, is what his brother Eric Weinstein came up with. Brett Weinstein, he was. I'm trying to think of the school he was at now.
He got in trouble. I know that
because it was what was it? Green. Damn it! I know it, and that's what's gonna make me look stupid.
Okay. Go ahead and keep talking. I'll find it.
He got, he came out because the students and some of the faculty, I think as well, they were trying to have like a day without whites kind of a thing, right? Like an idea at their school, and he was like, no, I don't think this is a good idea, guys. I don't think it's a good idea just to have all the white kids stay home. Like that's. So
he held his class in a public park.
Yeah, so and he took a bunch of flack, and this guy was like, I mean, he's a progressive. I mean, he's not like he was one of them. Like he was. I mean, it was very reasonable because I mean, I've watched enough hours and know that he's reasonable.
Evergreen.
Evergreen. There you go. I had green, but I was like, I just can't come up with the other piece of it. And he totally gets screwed, and he gets. I think he completely got pushed out of that college altogether. And I think he has a PhD in biology or something like that. I know he has a PhD, and he's extremely intelligent. So, I love a lot of his commentary, and I think he has a Dark Horse podcast, I believe.
He does, yeah, with his wife. His wife's on that podcast.
Oh, is that who that is?
Yeah, it's his wife. Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Yeah, so now that's a crazy story. It's once a year. Evergreen State University, located just outside of Seattle, allows students of color to take a day of absence so that their important contribution is felt at the university. Brett Weinstein, as a progressive, was and has been on the board for a long time. A year ago, they flipped the logic. Rather than telling people of color to stay away for a day, they told white people that they were not welcome to the campus for a day.
Yeah.
Absence was completely compulsory, but highly recommended. Weinstein thought that wasn't quite the same ethical and political message as a former option. Weinstein and his wife, also a professor, has since been forced out of the university due to their racism, and America seems divided.
Guy's totally not racist. The guy, he's it's so ridiculous. It's like it was like the left eating their own, and I didn't even understand it.
Yeah,
But I remember his whole journey, like in terms of learning about it and watching him on podcasts. And
his podcast with Joe Rogan was really good.
yeah, I listen to all because he has one with Jordan Peterson and him and Joe Rogan, and then he has a couple other ones with Joe Rogan, and they're all great.
Anything else good from the podcast?
On that one,
yeah,
a bunch of great COVID stuff.
Just
which
COVID
I totally off topic from Andrew Yang, but some great COVID stuff as well.
So
other than talking about Andrew Yang and McRaven, there's like a 12-minute piece of it, a video on YouTube that just.
So would Andrew Yang run with the conservative?
I don't know.
That'd be interesting. It'd be a good way to unite the America.
If he had a conversation, he said that he was having backdoor conversations with people. I'm assuming he also meant Andrew Yang, but I think they were still looking at some polling and stuff like that, and they weren't ready to come out and officially agree to it, is the way he presented it.
So he still might run in 2020?
I don't think it's going to happen in 2020, but Brett was saying that he was having conversations behind closed doors with people, but they weren't ready to come and make it official.
YangGang.
So I'm guessing it's not going to happen this time.
Join the YangGang. Sign up today with Andrew Yang's historic campaign. So no, I'm excited, man. I think he's a good candidate. I think he has some good ideas. Yeah. I don't agree with all of his ideas. I would like to know more. My thing is, like, I want them to explain. I think he's intellectual enough to explain what he's going to do instead of just trying to tell us, hey, this is. I think he'd be honest enough to say this is going to work or it's not going to work. Yeah,
and that's what I like because he's genuine. See, I don't need a leader that just agrees with me. I would prefer a leader that's genuine. So at least I know where they stand and what they're actually going to do and what their motivations are.
Yep, absolutely. What else you want to say? Anything else about Andrew Yang?
No, I think that's probably about it for now.
Perfect. All right, guys. Well, that's a possible candidate. Let us know what you guys think, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.